March 6, 2025. This is the S&P 500 E-futures mini on a 2000 tick chart using NinjaTrader 8. There's in the pre-market, there's a sell-off, kind of a consolidation, a bounce, another consolidation area here, then a sell-off, and then a really big, pretty sideways, choppy consolidation. That's kind of how I drew the charts today. Sell-off, I found this channel, kind of two legs up, kind of got messy here. Sell-off here, there's kind of two channels that I thought would work. Another kind of consolidation area, and then this big trading range, which I didn't bother to draw, but it was kind of like something like this. But there was no consistent highs or lows, so this didn't really come into play other than at the end of the day, you could see that it was moving sideways. The only economic data that came out that might have moved the market was at 5:30 Pacific Standard, which is about right here, is the unemployment claims. And then other than that, it was just a really big range because if you've seen the last few days, it's just been really choppy, pretty hard to decipher what's going on. I ended up not taking any trades today. I'm actually okay with that because the last couple of days I haven't been able to trade. So I did review the charts after the fact in the middle of the night when I was able to look at charts. So there was no real trades to be taken, but then I did review the charts. Didn't make any videos though. So I'm going to go through the trades right now and kind of walk through it hopefully rather quickly. I still have some things I got to do. Hopefully I'll be able to trade tomorrow. It's just kind of a lot of things happening offline that's kind of taking me away from my desk. Okay, this is what the pre-market looked like. Pre-market, it was just kind of sideways price action right here. There's a sell-off, which I found on this orange channel, bounce, and it looked like a spike and in a more shallow channel. On the open, it kind of opens, it chops around. It looks like it's one big orange leg down or one orange leg down. I found this yellow channel hit tested pretty well. One touch, two touch, three touch, four. Confirmed at the bottom. I didn't get the third confirmation till here. I thought I saw a second entry short here. Technically, it's a new low of day. First entry short, pullback, second entry short. I didn't like this because it wasn't a good enough signal bar. And I was a little weary that this is the overnight low. And this is actually where I drew the low here because it looked like I had better touch confirmations here. So it was a little bit in an ambiguous area. For a bullish red bar, I needed to be more bearish for me to feel confident taking a second entry short, but I did like that it touched the EMA. So fortunately, there was no trade there. Pushes down. When it gets to this point, that's where I trusted this yellow down channel pretty well because they had good confirmations at the high, three confirmations at the low, and it moved up, creates a new high, then it creates a first entry long, creates a new high here, moves down, first entry long, pullback, it creates a second entry long measured leg. I thought there was a trade here. I kind of had a hunch, but I didn't take it. The thing is, it's at the bottom of it's at the low of this yellow down channel. And seeing this in real time, I wasn't 100% sure if it would come down and touch the bottom because it came from the lows to the highs, low, high, high, back to the low. It failed to make this high, so it's on the way back down. I was thinking the next candle, am I at risk of potentially hitting this low again? But it did make a measure move. Things were a little ambiguous, so I kind of skipped it, looking for a higher low. You kind of get a higher low here, and it's confirmed after this candle closes. So you go, okay, I have a higher low, but it's below the EMA on a clearly bearish bias downtrend. So I didn't think it was worth it to go long. In this case, it would have worked because you do have a new high, first entry long, second entry long below the EMA, again, on a very bearish, currently the context is very bearish. So it's hard to trust it. Plus, it's hitting the midline of this yellow down channel. So kind of decided, just leave it alone. Ends up it worked. I mean, it would have worked, but I'm not there to take that trade. Pushes up. So now I'm thinking, okay, this is going to be a true test to see if there's going to be a strong push back down. And it starts breaking out. So I'm thinking, is it going to be a failed breakout with another push back into the yellow? I find this kind of this purple up channel fit here, but it had an overshoot here. So I wasn't 100% trusting it. But it fit the top side semi-good, but only two touches. Breaks through, consolidates, technically have a new high, first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long right here. So it's first entry, second entry, but it's below the EMA. It's a bad signal bar. When I see this, I'm not even thinking of going long, but then it confirms. So it confirms here, but it's kind of a very small reaction. It didn't try to push back above the EMA. So I'm not willing to take a trade here yet. I need to see a higher low above the EMA to believe it's going back long Otherwise, I'm thinking it's moving back into this yellow down channel, but that doesn't mean I'm going to take a short either. So it kind of chops around. Looks like if you try to go long, you wouldn't have gotten filled here unless you try to put it one tick above here, this guy, or right this guy. You would have gotten filled. Depending on how many you were going for, you would have gotten the scalp or potentially gotten the loss. Prices move down. It's just a little ambiguous here. I saw a potential setup here. Actually marked it as a possible second entry long. So you have a new high, it's a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long coming up. It's a good signal bar, strong close at the end. Confirms confirms the second entry long, but now I'm looking for a higher low confirmation because it already technically made a new high by hitting past this double top. You get a higher low here. So I'm looking for first entry long, second entry long, looking for a higher low confirmation. It gives you the higher low, but this, I really wanted this to come down, touch the EMA, and again close at the high, kind of like this, except be green, but afford me enough room before I hit this potential resistance area. But it doesn't offer that, so I didn't even mark it a higher low, just left it alone. You don't know that it's going to flash up like this pretty strongly. Moves up on this green up channel. It's this consolidation area. I'm just leaving it alone. Break out of this green up channel, tests and makes a new high, keeps going, and now it's kind of reversing back. The first entry long pulled potential second entry long here, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. It looks like if you tried to take it, you would have gotten filled, but it depends on how many you're going for. It's debatable whether even with a 1 point scout you would have gotten out safely. But then I saw this as a better move. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long. Unfortunately, this isn't a very good signal bar, so I had to leave it alone. This is consolidation. It's getting crushed between this resistance area and the EMA is also creeping up. So I'm just watching this carefully. I'm not necessarily looking for a trade yet because it's just it feels like it's going to go up higher, but doesn't mean that it necessarily will because the green up channel has tested and technically tested its high. Overall context is it was a sell-off, a more shallow sell-off. It looks like it's 2 legs up and then another shallow move up. So it's a little bit hard to know exactly for me to know exactly what's going to happen. It's this kind of noisy, choppy area. There are second entries, technical counts, but they're not necessarily good entries. Pushes up. I draw this because I was playing with several trend channels, and I ended up with this one. It looked like it fit pretty well. A little off here. See if I can adjust it back down. Looking for a handle here. A little bit like this, so it has a good touch here. Pushes to the high. It's a new high. The first entry long, pullback, second entry long. I'm thinking there's a failed breakout here. The green down channel has broken, tested the low. Unfortunately, this yellow up channel is very shallow. So it does need to test the highs technically, but it doesn't feel very strong. So I wouldn't be surprised if it kept breaking down lower, made like 2 legs up, maybe gets a EMA rejection, and then creates a second leg like this one back down. So I'm just kind of watching and waiting. It creates this higher low. This higher low I thought is a possible trade. It's a little more aggressive because here it looks like it's clearly moving back into the yellow. So first entry long, pullback, second entry long, higher low, engulf the previous bar, move down by 1 tick, close at the high of this guy and higher than this guy. So that's a possible trade. A little more aggressive for sure. And I thought, okay, it's probably moving back into here enough for a quick 1 point scalp. I just didn't like that the risk bar here, this is a 25 tick bar. So your stop wouldn't even be down here. To be really safe, you'd actually put it way down here. And that's just a really huge bar, a really huge stop. So I left it alone, kept moving up. It's bouncing and it looks like it's trying to move back into this yellow, but then it's just getting a little congested here. Starts moving up. I draw this purple trend line support and I created it into a channel, but it's not really something I feel reliable yet. Pushes up, breaks out the other side of this yellow up channel. So it's a little bit ambiguous now. So I'm not really sure. Clearly, I know that it's in a bullish uptrend, but what's going to happen next, I'm not too sure. Presses down. You got a first entry long pullback. You technically have a second entry long here. A little far from the EMA. It's a bad signal bar. I wasn't ready to take a trade there. Pushes up. So you actually have a new low. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short, creates a lower high, but this is an almost trade. because this is already pressing down at the lows of this possible range that's developing. Plus, you have the EMA right here. EMA lately has acted like kind of a support. It's clearly bullish, so I don't want to be shorting into here, potentially hit a rejection here, or even I'm shorting into the low of the range. So it's an almost trade. But it actually breaks through and continues downwards. Of course, you don't know that at the time. I trust this orange down channel resistance. Here I was fishing for, because I initially had it higher up and I had a breakout, but I kept dwelling outside. So I decided, okay, I'm going to drag it down to here. So I'm thinking I'm still moving down on this orange down channel. No clean setup. So failed. There's a breakout here. First entry long. Technically, I have a second entry long here, but why would you take a long way down here? It just feels too risky, too dangerous. Technical count, it is there, but context-wise, it's not there. Pushes back up. You have a new low. First entry short, pullback. Second entry short. I wanted a better signal bar here to see a second entry short failure. But even on a failure here, it just broke out of this side on a clearly orange bearish context. So here, even though it kind of looks like it failed, there's nothing that says it couldn't press down on the next move. In this case, it flushes up. Of course, you don't know that. You don't know it's going to happen. The first entry long kind of gets a little noisy here, moves down. EMA kind of holds support, pushes back up. There's 5 candles in a row that are bullish, and then it hits this, some kind of resistance here. Looked like it was respected before, so now you have like a triple test, but not a good short yet. Which is, you, depending on how you count, you can say 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch, 4 touch. Unfortunately, this isn't a good signal bar to try to even go short on, because you do have a new low, first entry short, second entry short. This is your signal bar for the second entry short. The trigger bar doesn't have a good follow through. So here, if you didn't have a good follow through, I wouldn't have a trade ready. Then I see this and I'm still pretty doubtful. Then it presses down. It's too late to enter this trade unless you get like a lower high, ideally below the EMA. And you kind of get a lower high here, but here you don't really see a lower high. I mean, you get a lower high confirmed here, but this isn't a good setup. You wouldn't have had a trade ready. By the time this opens and closes, the trade has already been made. Pushes around, starts moving down. I wasn't too sure. I thought there was some kind of trend line coming down. I turned it into this red down channel. It's a push breakout, first entry short, pullback, second entry short. Second entry short. This is a what I call a. It's kind of a if you decided. I was leaning more toward an almost trade because it's a failed breakout on this side, and you're expecting potentially a symmetrical breakout on this side. So before resuming this move back down, on the first attempt back down, I think you should skip it. But if you decide to take it because it did push below, it looks like it is 2 clean legs up with a potential bounce off of this resistance, I thought it was a little bit more aggressive for my taste. Turns out it would have worked because, of course, you don't know that this is going to happen. Could easily have moved back up, but it was 2 legs, so it's a possible trade. I think it was a little more aggressive, so definitely one that I felt wasn't worth it. Kind of something to skip. Oops, didn't mean to do that. Prices move down. So here I do drag. I can grab the handle down to here, thinking, okay, I might still be in this channel, which would explain why there wasn't an overshoot on this side. So I'm watching carefully to see if there's going to be a bounce rejection here. It presses up though. So I'm thinking, okay, it could be a failed breakout and a potential move back down into this red range. But this red range looks like it's turning into a red channel, turning into some kind of range, potential support right here, fail breakout here. Not the cleanest, so not the easiest to navigate. Presses up on the screen, breaks, tests the high. Here, I've noticed that it touched 1 touch, 2 touch, 3 touch. So clearly there's a resistance zone here. 2 legs up, 1 leg up, pull back, second leg up. It hasn't made the measure move, flushes down. It creates this lower high, kind of a lower high confirmation. It is a little more aggressive. It is 2 breaks up, so the uptrend of this green has played out. You're thinking there is potentially multiple tests up here, a flush down, lower high. The thing I just didn't like was this unfortunately didn't touch or at least break through the EMA. So I could easily see a potential bounce here and move back up. Although the uptrend has played out, it's hard to really know for sure. So I just kind of left it alone. Called it an almost trade. Also, it is confirming second entry short. So first entry short, second entry short, lower high. Just didn't feel if it had if this had just closed a little higher to give you enough room for the EMA, then I think it would have been a possible trade. Which is down, first entry long, second entry long failure. It gets kind of noisy. It starts moving down. I'm thinking, okay, I connected these two lines. This yellow down channel actually had it a little tighter up here, and I gradually kept moving it down or downwards. But there was no clear way for me to see a good entry here, because you do have a new high here, first entry long. Technically, a second entry long, you're not thinking of going long because it's just not good signal bars, and it's just too far from the EMA. No real context, no key entry points. You're not thinking of going short either because you're already so far down. It just kind of keeps chopping around. It makes an attempt up. You do see you have a new low here. You technically only have a first entry short. It keeps pushing down. So at this point, I'm thinking there's an intermediate, potentially green down channel because one touch, two touch, but it hit the bottom relatively nicely. Unfortunately, I didn't see any good trades still. The only possibility I saw right here, it is a new low. It's a first entry short pullback, second entry short. So you had to have been playing this green down channel, one touch, two touch, three touch. So this is potentially a third touch confirmation rejection. You wouldn't really be playing this yellow down channel as much. It's a decent signal bar. I mean, the signal bar is terrible, but it's a good follow through trigger bar. Almost touched the EMA, but the almost touched the EMA plus a rejection third touch of this downward green down channel makes it a possible trade because the risk is also a little bit lower than some of the other previous candles. And you're going with the trend, which is clearly a bearish trend at this point. So it presses down, starts breaking out, hits the top. So that's where I thought, okay, maybe this yellow one's back into play. The yellow one had a long overshoot dwell out here. So I was thinking maybe to encapsulate that, it'd be closer to something like here, except there's just too much empty space here. So I didn't really trust the yellow one. And at this point, I'm not really using the green one as a guidance. Presses down, it hits this kind of choppy consolidation. This is the low of day. It looks like it's bouncing back up now. There's a first entry short. This is consolidation area. It starts moving back down, breaks and makes new lows. There's a double top high, first entry long, pullback. You get a second entry long here, but it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. You'd be picking the bottom. It could be in this orange down channel, so you potentially hit a resistance. So I'm not buying into that. In this case, it would have worked. This first entry long, pullback. You technically have a second entry long, but that's just too far from the setup. It's just, there's no real setup there, in my opinion. Bounces up, kind of oscillates, pushes back down. You have a new low. It's a first entry short. Technically, you have a hidden second entry short here. Well, actually, it's not really hidden. New low, first entry short, second entry short, right along the EMA. Just something I don't feel like is worth taking a risk on. Ideally wanted a first entry long, second entry long failure. Like if this green candle actually ticked up, touched the EMA higher than this guy and then closed bearish, then it would be a trade here. But unfortunately, it doesn't play out that way, so there's no real setup. Presses down. I drew this transparent channel as a guideline, but it doesn't really look like it fits. I mean, it fits, but it doesn't really look like it's helpful. Technically, you have a new low here. It's a first entry short. You have a second entry short. It's just not the good signal bar, not a very good trigger bar follow through. And then you kind of hit here and it bounces up. So you could say it's a first entry short, second entry short, second entry short failure, but you're looking for the failure after this bar. So it fails here, but by the time this bar closes, it's kind of meeting a double top. And I had this down channel drawn, so I had things going against going long. There's a bunch of reasons not to go long, just to wait. Presses up. First entry long. Technically, you have a second entry long below the EMA, break of this orange, tested the low already, so you're thinking it's played out. Green still needs to test the high, but it's a bad signal bar. So I'm looking for a higher low. First entry long, second entry long, higher low above the EMA. You don't get that, so you just abandon the idea of a trade because the price action has already moved too far to account for this. It's just kind of chopping around, starts moving up. You have first entry short, pull back. You have a second entry short, but it's just too congested, too side by side, just sitting on my hands and waiting. So up until this point, you're watching, the EMA has been kind of like all over the place. Well, not all over the place, but price action has been above and below it several times. Overall bias is hard to tell. Clearly, it was a sell-off, a rally, consolidation, another sell-off, and it looks like it's consolidating again. So if a new high, it's a first entry long, and then you really don't get a second entry long. It just kind of keeps going down. So I was looking if there was some kind of setup here, but unfortunately not, because it was nice that it touched the EMA. I didn't have this yellow down channel fully developed yet, so I couldn't really use it as key entry point. I didn't figure that out early enough until these candles printed. Then I drew this confirmation yellow down channel. So there's no second key entry point here. There's not even really, other than just the EMA, there's only one key entry point. That's not good enough off of no real setup. This is down. It's a new low, first entry short. Technically, I have a second entry short potential failure coming up, but it's right at the EMA, pushes up. By the time this closed, so you have a first entry here, first entry short, second entry short failure. I felt like the trade was too late, and I was worried that perhaps the channel is actually something closer to this to encapsulate all this. So there could be a fail breakout and another press to test the lows of this yellow. So I'm just watching. It's a little noisy. First entry long, second entry long, not really a good signal bar. Pops around. Another first entry long, second entry long, then press down. It's just getting a little bit hard to really fully gauge what's going on. It's a new low, first entry short, second entry short, but it's not a good signal bar. You don't even know you have a second entry short till this guy confirms. If there's a bad signal bar, you would not have known to do that. Then kind of presses. You have a new high. It's a first entry long pullback, second entry long, potential failure. Excuse me. I thought it was a possible trade. EMA is flattening out. It is a rejection off the EMA, rejection off this trend line, because it didn't really turn into a candle just yet, because I wasn't sure if it was actually here or here. But I just didn't really like that this candle was so bullish. First entry long, second entry long. Possible trade. I thought it was a little more aggressive. And this measured move, you could claim that it's been made, or if it hasn't been made, you're looking for another move down. In this case, it flushed down. So, you know, in all honesty, I was kind of waffling. I wasn't really sure what I was looking at. Then with this form, I'm pretty sure it biased my thinking into thinking, well, obviously it's a second entry long failure. So even though I claimed that it's a possible trade, I think there was very little chance of me, really knowing what was going on here. Prices move, breaks out the bottom. Again, tests the low. New low, first entry short. Technically, I have a second entry short here. Unfortunately, it didn't break below the EMA. If it broke below the EMA or closed, then I would have been a fantastic trade, because the first entry short, second entry short break of this developing channel. Now, this could have just been a negligible breakout, but here it's going down, break, and it's probably going to test the low. So unfortunately, it just didn't quite set up. Pops around. I saw a new high, say first entry long pullback, second entry long here, second entry long. It is kind of, the EMA is starting to turn bullish. It's a decent signal bar. There's enough room to the high. I just like that it was a good signal bar, but I think it was certainly more aggressive. It is bouncing off this trend line support, which turned into a channel later. But again, super aggressive. I don't think in real time, I certainly didn't take it, but I don't know that I would have been fully confident taking this. Then presses up, starts moving up on what I think is this orange up channel. So it looks like prices are in this trading range of some kind, but I don't know where the highs are. Is it here? Is it here? Is it fail breakout here? It's a little hard to tell. I wasn't sure where the lows were at, because it's clearly the lowest low, but here doesn't really have too many confirmations. Doesn't have too many confirmations here, too many fail breakouts, but I just knew that it was going sideways. But continues up, breaks out the top with first entry long, pullback. Technically, I have a second entry long. Unfortunately, it's just kind of out in the middle of nowhere. If you had this green down channel drawn, which actually had a little bit like this, maybe you could claim it's at the lows, but it doesn't feel too safe, because I don't know if it's going to make a small tick, trap everybody, and continue downwards. So I wanted a higher low confirmation. You don't get the higher low. Breakout here, pushes down, tests the extreme of this green down channel, and keeps going. Bounces. The first entry short, second entry short, second entry short. Actually, I should have marked this. So, where did my mouse go? Okay. New low, first entry short, pullback, second entry short, break of this, depending on how you drew it, break of this orange has kind of tested the high. Or it could be making a second attempt and it's about to fail. So, depending on how you drew this, there's a small break, but you could make the argument that it's small enough that it might make a second attempt to test this low. So the second entry short, I think, is a possible trade. Good enough for probably only a scalp for safety. Prices then move up. First entry long, breaks out. It's being supported by the EMA. Unfortunately, there's no setup here. I drew this yellow, this transparent up channel, and I saw this as a new high. So first entry long pullback, second entry long, potentially a trade here because the break of this green, excuse me, it's a break of this yellow up channel, tested the high. EMA is starting to support. I do see another trend line acting as support, potential possible range here. So maybe there's enough for a quick 1 point scalp. So if you did enter, yes, there's enough for a 1 point scalp. The prices move, it breaks down to the other side, pops around, and then it's just kind of entering the last 30 minutes of the day where it's a break of the screen up channel, test the high, starting to come back down. First entry long, pull back. It's a second entry long failure. I wasn't really thinking, I was thinking one push down, push up. It already made a new low, so even though it looks like it's second entry long here, this looks like it's about to fail. But it's too late in the day to try to even take this trade. Kind of bounces, oscillates, and kind of moves noisily into the close. So similar to what's been happening these last few days, price action has been kind of choppy, a little bit more challenging for me to decipher. Ends up being a no trade day. It's kind of a, well, it was action packed if you could trade it, but unfortunately, this week has been a bad week of trading for me. It's kind of up away from my desk several times this week and for the full day, but I go back and re-look at the charts, and so it's kind of been a dry spell. So uh, I think a lot of it has been Trump coming out and making announcements. There's a lot of tariff talks, a lot of economic uncertainty, which has been causing a lot of movement, a lot of volume. So hopefully tomorrow get a decent trade in, and hopefully this is helpful.